Ready when you are.
Chair Vargas, you have a quorum.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone, and I am now going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to the February 10th, 2022 meeting of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board. Before we begin the meeting, I would like to inform the public that simultaneous Spanish language interpretation is available. I would like to ask my colleagues to please select the English option using the interpretation button at the bottom of their screen once it becomes available after the interpreter explains the accessibility features in Spanish. I'm going to turn it over to, I think it's Ashley Nunez, Sheriff, and Vicky.
Either Ashley or Vicky, you can go ahead. You can move forward with the Spanish instructions. You're still muted. Ashley or Vicky?
Here are the instructions. Bienvenidos y gracias por acompañarnos hoy. Antes de empezar la reunión, explicaremos cómo es la interpretación simultánea al español. En su computadora verá el icono de globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de la pantalla, a la derecha. Cuando se active dentro de unos minutos, haga clic en el icono de interpretación, Language Interpretation, y seleccione Español, Spanish. Si está conectándose por teléfono, tableta u otro dispositivo similar, tendrá el menú con los 3 puntitos en la esquina superior derecha de su pantalla. Pulse Interpretación del lenguaje y luego Español. Esto permite oír la traducción al español con un 80% de volumen y el audio en inglés al fondo con un 20% de volumen. Tiene la opción de apagar el audio en inglés pulsando Mute Original Audio desde el mismo menú donde se selecciona el idioma español. Muchas gracias. Thank you. This concludes instructions in Spanish.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would like to ask that all meeting participants, including members of the public, please select your preferred language using the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that all board members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. With that, Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Present.
Member Bush.
Here.
Member Ilo Rivera. Member Gomez. Member Lawson Reamer.
Here.
Member Martinez.
Having technical difficulties with video, but I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Medina.
Here.
Member Shu.
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez here.
And Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
I would also like to note for the record that I just received notification from Member Gomez that she will be unable to join today's meeting.
Thank you. All right. I would like to remind board members to please turn your cameras on and for everyone to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. If you'd like to comment, please raise your hand and I'm going to go ahead and recognize you. I would also ask that for votes, please say your last name after your vote. First item is the adoption. We're going to move to adopt the resolution relating to holding teleconference meetings. Are there any comments from APCD staff regarding this item?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. This is just a routine standing item to allow us to meet remotely in compliance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, while the emergency order from the governor is still in effect and local officials are still recommending social distancing.
All right. With that, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Oh, I see.
Move to approve this item. Sanchez.
Martinez, second.
Motion and a second. There's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Ilo Rivera. Member Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We will now move on to public communication. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board under this item today?
Marvis, you're on mute if you're speaking.
Thank you. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. We have 2 requests to speak under public communication. I will call you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by stating your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. Our first caller is 2776. 2776. Please press *6 to unmute yourself or the unmute button. You may begin by stating your name for the record.
Hi, Suzanne Hume, cleanearthforkids.org. So hello, everyone, and thank you for your work to protect the air. We're really excited about the new members here and the great work that can happen that is absolutely needed. As you know, San Diego County has some of the worst air in the entire nation. We know that the American Lung Association has said that we get an F in ozone and a D in particulate matter. That's the State of the Air Report 2020. And we know that CalPERG said last year in October 2021 that San Diego has the worst air in the nation. So we need to do all that we can to protect our air. There are some really easy things that you can do to help protect the air, and we'd love to work with you on these. So for starters, as you know, it is in your purview to regulate and to monitor and to shut down wood burning fireplaces, as the CARB graphic shows us. And so we need you to help us because cities are not able to do this alone. In Oceanside, unfortunately, we have 5 fire rings. We know that, and that's a stationary source, and we know that burning 10 pounds of wood in 1 hour creates the same cancer-causing PAHs as 6,000 packs of cigarettes. So in Oceanside and other places, I am unable to have equal access to public lands. I have a lung condition because I was poisoned because Oceanside and the county are leasing to West Coast tomato growers that have worker violations and are using toxic pesticides banned in other countries. And we have all of the data and all the sheets on this. So when we told CARB to please protect our air from wood smoke, they said, basically, you should be doing it. And they didn't believe John when he said it wasn't happening. You can view the tape on this. So we're here to work together. It's just that this needs to happen now. And also, the reason you're not receiving as many complaints is because people have been told directly that you do not take care of the wood smoke. So people would be calling in. As a person with a lung condition, it's hard for me. I have to drive around to different neighborhoods at night to figure out, can I live here? Because of the wood burning fireplaces that we know are deadly. And the smoke at the harbor is terrible, and also in other places in the county. We need your help because you know that PM 2.5, as well as PAHs that cause cancer and other things, is very, very dangerous. And we must, it is so small that it can be inhaled in the nose and absorbed in the bloodstream, and it passes through the blood-brain barrier. We know that PM 2.5 is connected not just with learning problems and lung cancer, but terrible, terrible outcomes and birth defects, etc. So we have all of this research. We definitely need your
I would
help.
ask that you please
Also-
wrap up your comments. Your time has concluded.
Oh, thank you. I'm calling in on the phone, so I couldn't see a clock. Okay, so very quickly, also, please monitor and pesticides. CARB is actually getting involved, and we know that you have purview to do mobile air, although that's stationary air. So also look at second and third hand smoke to save our lives. Thank you so much for your work, and we look forward to working with you. This is Suzanne with cleanearthforkids.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 5459. 5459. Please unmute yourself at this time by pressing the unmute button and begin by stating your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is John Bodorf with cleanearthforkids.org. I want to talk today about pesticide drift, which is a major threat to air quality and human health. Pesticides are poison. That is their purpose, and they are designed and created to be toxic and lethal. Over 99% of pesticides used go into the surrounding environment, harming public health and contaminating our air, soil, and water. According to the EPA, up to 70 million pounds of pesticides blow onto unintended targets every year. The risks to human health are very high. 2 recent California studies showed elevated cancer risk per children rose from 13 agriculture pesticides rose when applied to pesticides 2.5 miles away. So children living 2.5 miles away from farms had an elevated cancer risk. Legal does not mean safe. The US only bans 15 pesticides. China bans 51. Pesticides drift through spray and volatilization, which results in toxic chemicals traveling a great distance through the air. For example, dicamba, which is found in over 1,000 different herbicide products, has been shown to drift miles, and 2,4-D has been shown to drift 10 to 50 miles under certain conditions. Pesticide drift settles on playgrounds and lawns where people and children come into contact. Pesticide drift exposes people, pollinators, and wildlife to danger from what they touch, breathe, and eat. In California alone, there are an average of 80 pesticide drift cases that caused harm every year. In 2017, 482 people got sick from being sprayed by agricultural pesticides, 2/3 of them being farm workers. And there will be much, much more than that, as farm workers are reluctant to report because they are scared to lose their jobs. There is a lot of farms in San Diego County, and the Air Board must take action to protect everyone from being exposed to toxic pesticides. Drift exposes people from miles away, people who probably don't even know there's a farm nearby, who don't even know why they are suddenly feeling sick. This board is ultimately responsible for protecting our air. Please do all you can to keep pesticides from drifting on children and protect farm workers. Preferably just stop using pesticides, transition to non-pesticide use, non-chemical ways. This is about justice. It is not right that people's health are being sacrificed to grow our food. Please do all you can to reduce the use of pesticides in the county, protect our children. And lastly, I want to echo what Suzanne said. I ask you to take action to stop secondhand smoke, particularly in multi-unit housing. Secondhand smoke is a known air contaminant. So please take action to protect children from being exposed to toxic smoke in their own homes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony under this item.
Thank you. We will now move to the approval of the January 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. Before we move to approval, let me ask staff to explain any changes that need to be made to the statement of proceedings.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Vargas. Due to the fact that board members LaCava and Lawson-Remer were not sworn in prior to the January 19th meeting, they could not take action on the items that were before the governing board at that time. And so the draft statement of proceedings for the January 19th meeting has been updated to reflect this change.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to be extra cautious on this stuff just in case. And so, Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board under this item?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that would like to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using instructions that were provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public comment on this item.
Okay, seeing none, thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues or staff? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion for approval?
Sanchez moves to approve the January 19th, 2022 statement of proceedings.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera. Member Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We have one item on our consent calendar. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests from the public to move on an item from the consent calendar to the regular agenda for discussion?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have received no request. However, if there are members of the public that are on the teleconference line now that would like to pull an item from consent to the regular agenda, Please indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public that wish to pull an item for discussion.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues, or do any of the board members wish to move this item from the consent calendar to regular agenda? All right, seeing none, and is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Sanchez moves to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Martinez seconds.
I heard Martinez second, right? So we have
Yes.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Ayla Rivera, Member Lawson Remer,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We'll now move to our agenda items. Our first item for discussion is the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District's Governing Board Military Liaison to the United States Navy. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the, I'm sorry, there is no staff presentation. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand at this time. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to provide testimony on this item.
Right, I don't think, Paula, did you want to make any comments on this item?
No, it just briefly, this is related to the fact that the members weren't sworn in. So we're just going to repeat this vote just to make everything crystal clear. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Now, are there any members of the public? So we don't have any public, any that want to have any comments?
No, there is no public comment on this item.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Clerk. Under AB 423, the board must designate one of the two board members representing the San Diego County Board of Supervisors to serve as a military liaison. Are there any nominations for the military liaison? Member Lawson Remer.
I'm very happy to again nominate Chair Vargas to serve in this role. She will be amazing. She was going to be amazing before, and she will be amazing again. So yes.
All right, and so then I accept the nomination, and then is there a motion to appoint myself as a military liaison, right?
Can I make that motion?
Yes, ma'am. And so I need a second.
Second, Sanchez second, now that we're all sworn in.
Yes.
Ditto what she said.
Thanks, Esther.
Am I good with the motions, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call the roll.
¿Ya hemos llamado a todos?
Oh. Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Claudia, gracias.
Creo que se equivocó, Vicky. I think you're on our channel.
Oh, I'm on your.
Está en el canal de inglés.
No me, okay. No me dieron.
Ajá.
No me dieron donde puedo escoger, no me lo dieron a mí.
Ok, ahorita está en el canal normal del APCD. A ver si le pueden
Sí,
cambiar.
por favor.
Vicky, could you please, I apologize, real quick,
Yes.
could you please email me the email address that you're using? Because
Yes.
it doesn't look like you've joined using the email address that you initially provided for Zoom.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where's your email? Is this Marvis?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am with the same one, but
Go ahead and do that, and then we can continue with the meeting. Thank you.
Sure. Here we go. Minus the little diagonal.
And please go ahead and mute yourself. Thank you.
Yes.
Zoom is the best.
It's active.
It's all good. It's all good.
It was a commercial.
Madam Chair, if you'd like, I'll go ahead and call the roll for that item.
Yes, please.
Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Yes.
Member Ila Rivera, Member Lawson Reamer,
Aye.
Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item for consideration is the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Air Quality Complaint Plan. There's an APCD staff presentation that will be given for this item. But before we begin, Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
All right, so thank you with that. Let's begin with the staff presentation. Ms. Luther, please begin.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Good afternoon, board members, members of the public. I am Mayani Luther. I'm a deputy director for the district. We're here today to discuss a plan required by California Assembly Bill 423, which includes staff recommendation to enhance the district's air quality complaint program. I'll now turn it over to William Jacks, who is the chief of the compliance division of the district, and he will begin with a brief overview of the air quality complaint program.
Right, next slide, please. So, good afternoon, everyone. Under the Air Quality Complaint Program, the district receives and investigates air quality complaints. Oh, I think we have, there we go. So the district receives and investigates air quality complaints submitted by members of the public. Most complaints report odors, dust, smoke, or improper asbestos removal processes. The complaint program promotes opportunities to engage with community members and to determine compliance with district rules and regulations. On average, the district receives approximately 860 complaints annually. On average, field inspectors investigate complaints within 24 hours and take enforcement actions when a violation of the air quality regulations is documented. Next slide, please. The district conducts routine outreach to ensure the public is aware of the services we provide under this program. The public has 3 options to submit air quality complaints: via mobile app, phone, or email. Complaints can be submitted in any language. The district compliance team has multiple team members who are fluent in Spanish, but it also has contracts with interpretation services to address complaints in other languages. Next slide, please. Assembly Bill 423 amended state law in 2019 to restructure and expand the district's governing board. It also established new requirements for the district to increase transparency and public engagement. Next slide, please. One of the requirements in AB 423 is for the district to evaluate and propose recommendations to enhance its air quality complaint program, addressing the elements shown on this slide. The elements are posting of complaints and their resolution on the district's website, including the date and time of the complaint, the general nature of the complaint, and the closest intersection to the site of the complaint. Whistleblower and public complainant protections, response to complaints within 48 hours or less, and a 24-hour hotline. On December 17th, 2021, the district published a draft plan on its website that included recommendations to address these requirements. We will now discuss each requirement and proposed recommendation. Next slide, please. Starting with the requirement related to posting complaint information on the website, the district is proposing to develop, publish, and maintain data sets on its website to make complaint information readily available to the public. Currently, complaint-related information is mostly provided via the district's public information request process. Publishing data sets with complaint information will promote transparency, public engagement, and accountability. Next slide, please. Moving on to the second requirement related to whistleblower and public complainant protections. Currently, the identity of the complainants remain anonymous during investigations. To the extent allowed by law, the district protects the identity of persons who file complaints if they do not want their identity disclosed. By law, there are special circumstances that would require the district to disclose the identity of complainants. For example, disclosure would be required in response to a subpoena. or if otherwise ordered by a court in the interest of justice. However, these are very special circumstances. The district is enhancing controls to ensure the identity of complainants is not inadvertently disclosed, which will provide assurances to members of the public that want to submit complaints without disclosing their identity. Next slide, please. As it relates to complaint response time, as indicated by the red line shown on this slide, on average, the district has been responding to air quality complaints within 24 hours. This graph also shows that the district continues to work toward decreasing the complaint response time. The district is proposing to implement systematic controls and enhance its reporting tools to closely monitor complaint response times. This recommendation will enable district staff to identify any potential delays in responding to complaints and proactively address any deficiencies that might lead to delays in response to air quality complaints. Next slide, please. AB 423 also requires recommendations for a 24-hour complaint hotline. This slide shows the number of complaints received outside the normal business hours of Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. These numbers represent approximately 15% of the air quality complaints submitted to the district. For the past 12 years, air quality after-hour complaints have been handled under a memorandum of agreement between the district and the County of San Diego's Department of Environmental Health and Quality. The MOA establishes that the Department of Environmental Health staff will respond to after-hour complaints on behalf of the district. Next slide, please. While the MOA between the district and environmental health has been successful, in order to expand its services, the district will need its own after-hours complaint program to directly respond to complaints and verify compliance with all air quality regulations during these investigations. The district is proposing to have a duty officer for its after-hours complaint program and implement the process shown on this slide. Under this process, the district would have in-house staff available 24/7 to receive and investigate complaints. The estimated annual costs associated with this duty officer process is estimated to be approximately $200,000. The actual costs will depend on the number of after-hour complaints that are actually received. Next slide, please. On December 17th, 2021, the district published a draft of the air quality complaint plan and scheduled a virtual public meeting to discuss the draft plan for January 20th, 2022. Public meeting outreach was conducted by publishing the meeting notice in English and Spanish and draft plan on the district website, and by reaching out to multiple organizations and committees, district permit holders, approximately 4,100 members of the public who have submitted air quality complaints in the past, about 8,000 email addresses via the district's GovDelivery email subscription service, and other stakeholder and members of the public via Twitter. Approximately 20 participants attended the public meeting on January 20th, 2022. Spanish interpretation services were provided during the meeting. Additionally, the meeting is available on the district's YouTube channel. Most participants supported the proposed after-hours program, and there was no specific recommendations related to the proposed plan. Next slide, please. We would like to recap all requirements and recommendations for your consideration. For posting complaint information on the website, the district is proposing to develop, publish, and maintain data sets on its website to make complaint information readily available to the public. This recommendation will promote transparency, public engagement, and accountability. For public complainant protections, the district is proposing to enhance its systematic controls to ensure that the identity of complainants continue to be protected. This recommendation will provide additional assurances to members of the public that have concerns about disclosing their identities. For complaint response time, the district is proposing to implement systematic controls and enhancing its reporting tools to closely monitor complaint response time with a goal to respond to all complaints within 24 hours. This recommendation will enable district staff to identify any potential delays in responding to complaints and proactively address any deficiencies that might lead to delays in responding to air quality complaints. For the 24-hour hotline, the district is proposing to implement an after-hours complaint program to enhance the services provided to our communities by enabling district staff to verify compliance with all air quality requirements during after-hour investigations. Next slide, please. Today's recommendations is to receive the Air Quality Complaint Program Plan and approve staff's recommendations to enhance the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to provide, that have any questions?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have one member of the public that has requested to speak on this item.
Okay.
I'll call the individual by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It's 2464. 2464. You may go ahead and unmute yourself at this time. Please begin by stating your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board on this item. 2464.
Hello, my name is Lupita Montoya. Oh, dear APCD Governing Board, the Environmental Health Coalition expresses its overall support for the Air Quality Complaint Plan presented by the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District today. This plan aligns with the board's efforts to become more responsive to public participation and engagement. EHC appreciates the opportunity to provide feedback on this plan and supports the recommendations to post complaints in the resolution of the district's website, including key relevant information, enhance protection for members of the public reporting air quality complaints, implement a system of controls to monitor response times so that they are kept within 48 hours or less, implement a 24-hour hotline administered by the district that will facilitate verification of compliance. EHC also appreciates the useful data provided in the plan that would like to make some observations that hopefully will inform future improvements to the program. As shown in Figure 1 in the plan, the Portside community was consistently registered or has consistently registered the fewest complaints compared to the other regions covered by the district. While we could speculate that these numbers can be due to affluent communities being more comfortable registering their complaints, we want to encourage the district to consider ways to make this complaint system more accessible to the Portside community. In this case, we think accessibility may be impaired by both cultural and technological barriers. For example, our Portside communities face long-standing reluctance to complain to authorities for fear of retribution of some sort. Many of them have general distrust of authorities and won't expect resolution to their complaints. We need to proactively dissipate those fears. On the technical side, we need to consider the digital divide that many of our community members face. Therefore, we appreciate that a mobile app is already available. As mobile
Que ya
phones
está
are more
disponible,
accessible
como los
technology.
mobilares son aparatos de tecnología más apto.
We urge
Hola.
the district to carefully
Este,
look at ways to make
pedimos
that
al
app
distrito
more
que busquen
user-friendly
una manera
to our
de que
community
la aplicación
and
sea
offer
más
our support
favorable
to
para la
test
comunidad.
Ms.
those
Montoya,
improvements
Ms.
when they
Montoya,
become
Montoya,
available.
Ms.
por favor,
Montoya, I'm going
señora
to pause
Montoya,
your time.
necesito
Hello,
ponerle en
everyone.
pausa su tiempo.
I offer
Escucho a todos.
to provide
Hold on,
feedback
hold
on
on.
language
Everybody-
inconsistencies I found in the Spanish version
Oh my
of
God.
the complaint
Espera un
form.
momento,
Sorry,
señor.
things like the Spanish.
Hello, can you wait a second? I'm gonna start off your time again. I'm gonna ask the interpreter to really make sure that you are not coming back and forth because something is happening and you're coming back into the main connection. So if you can just double check that, please. And then
Okay.
we're gonna go back.
Con Marvis,
Person, Marvis, if you can go ahead and give our speaker some time.
Yes, I'll add.
creo que estoy. Am I on the main channel still?
You're on the main channel. You're not on the Spanish channel.
How? Okay. Buscar. Interpretación. I don't see the click place for the, I still don't see it. I only see interpretation on and off. There's no, lo siento mucho. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, for now, we'll go ahead and mute yourself for now.
But, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Disculpa, Ashley.
No problema.
Ms. Montoya, I'm going to go ahead. You were at 48 seconds. You had 48 seconds left. I'm going to go ahead and give you a minute and a half, and you can go ahead and start again.
Oh, if I may, I can also just start from after, thanking you for the 4 points specifically that were covered. As I don't want to repeat something that is, well known now, and thank you for that part. But I do want to make the substantive comments here. So EHC also appreciates the useful data provided in the plan that would like to make some observations that hopefully will inform future improvements to the program. As shown in Figure 1 in the plan, the Portside community has consistently registered the fewest complaints compared to the other regions covered by the district. While we could speculate these numbers can be due to affluent communities being more comfortable registering their complaints, we want to encourage the district to consider ways to make this complaint system more accessible to the Portside community. In this case, we think accessibility may be impaired by both cultural and technological barriers. For example, our Portside communities face long-standing reluctance to complain to authorities for fear of retribution of some sort. Many of them have general distrust of authorities and won't expect resolution of the complaint. We need to proactively dissipate such fears. On the other side, on the technical side, we need to consider the digital divide that many of our community members face. Therefore, we appreciate that a mobile app is already available, as mobile phones are more accessible technology. We urge the district to carefully look at ways to make that app more user-friendly to our communities and offer our support to test those improvements when they become available. Personally, I offer to provide feedback on language inconsistencies I found in the Spanish version of the complaint form. Thank you for the opportunity to provide additional feedback on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
So I know it's not typical for staff to respond, but I think that we can go ahead and take some of those notes, because I think it's really important to take that feedback. And I think there might be, I don't know if any of the members have recommendations, but I do, when I was looking at the information, I just wanted to make sure like that as we're implementing a 24-hour hotline, making sure that that information is in a couple of the different languages. And I love technology, but I also think that technology, especially for the Portside communities, technology is not always the best tool, right? Even apps, sometimes it's tough for folks. And so I assumed, I made a lot of assumptions, and I'm thinking that there might be opportunities to connect it with maybe the Promotora program or some other opportunities that, programs that maybe EHC has, so that, as we're, we're going to have a new communications person at APCD, that this becomes a much bigger part of the complaint process, becomes part of a tool for the outreach plan of APCD as part of more of a, how do we become stronger as part of our customer service piece of the work that we're doing. And I don't really like the word complain because it's such a weird word for people, but I think it's more of a, how do we serve our constituents better, right? And so yeah, I saw Paula taking a lot of notes, but I do agree with the caller with a lot of the work that they have, especially around the digital divide and stuff. But Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, actually, I was wondering about how to make this more available to certain parts of our communities that are perhaps Spanish language or different language, or maybe don't have as much access. And I know that we are trying to expand into the communities at this, even as we speak, via ARPA funds. Perhaps if we can get this information through our partners like Vista Community Clinic here in North County, so that it's just part of the packet of information that they have just to say, and I guess we all call it a queja, right, in Spanish. So it is kind of a complaint. Me quejo de esto, me quejo de otro, right? So it's like, ¿tienen quejas? I think it's still culturally relevant to say that word, but certainly we can come up with other words. Yeah. But that's what I was thinking is, giving information and the 24-hour, what I was going to ask is to ensure that it would be accessible via different languages.
Yeah, And the other thing, I'm going to turn it over right now to you, Member Chu and Member Medina, but the other thing I failed to mention, which I thought was extremely important, that I don't want to forget, is the piece that all of this information has to be kept confidential. When I was an executive at Planned Parenthood, the one thing that we always had to make sure we put everywhere is that data will not be shared, and that when we, because especially in communities of concern, that always ends up being one of the things that makes people very nervous, because when you're in a mixed immigration status household, right, you get really nervous that if you are complaining because of what you hear on radio and TV and everything else, you get really nervous about what that's going to say. And so I think that if we can use it as a positive tool and use it as part of our media outreach as well, because I think, there's a lot of folks here that could use as a part of a partnership to get out in the community and use it on Univision and Telemundo and share it and say, you know what, if you know something, this is where you go, this is the number. And so I don't want to, I think there's a lot of really positive things that we can do with this opportunity to really connect APCD to the community on the ground. So I'll stop at that and turn it over to Member Medina. Member Chu and then Member Medina.
Thank you. And, as we roll out this process, I wanted to suggest some ways to evaluate the complaint process at a later time as we go forward. And what I've been noticing is often institutions measure overall quantity of responses, but not really get into who is participating in that particular program with regards to things like location, propensity for the need for that particular location. So, for example, we know a particular community may be more subjected to pollution than others. Then we can anticipate a greater number of complaints from that community. So we should record the location, and then also record gender, ethnicity, or race, and age and income of the complainants. Now, that's a lot of data, which of course all needs to be kept confidential. But if you have a lot of data, then we can then look at what there may be some real differences. And I think that's important for us to record that information so we have it, and then go to the next level, which is find out why we have those differences, if there are differences, and then really approach the problem. So it is more data, but I think that's the way we're going to have to really approach the problem systematically and really get at the core issues. Otherwise, I think we have good suspicion as to why there is a problem, whether it's technical information or language barriers, but there are other more subtle, I think, barriers that we need to approach and identify. So that's my encouragement. I just want to encourage to get into the evaluative process as we roll out new systems like this, so that we can improve them later much more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Medina, and then Member Bush.
Thank you, Chair. I will just wanted to recommend to staff that the process includes a feedback to the complainant about how was their complaint handled. I made a few comments already to staff, and they were very kind to answer some of them, so I will not go into them. But in terms of the idling problem, I'm sure the Portside community, that is one of the big problems that they have with trucks idling in more than 5 minutes. And so that response to them that something was done, I think is very important, especially as we look at our hotline and actually trying to get an inspector in real time to document that violation. And related to that, and I've had trucks, diesel trucks parked across the street from our house and idle for a long time because we live across from a park. And it was difficult to find information to let the driver know that they were in violation. And so another recommendation would be to have a fact sheet, which was eventually, I did find it with staff's assistance, but have it available so that people can download it and inform the offender that they should move. And I know the district has to witness a violation in order to proceed to a fine or some kind of a NOV. But I think since a lot of these things will happen in a short time and the district may not be able to respond, I think having the public have tools to do that would be very helpful. So that's what I wanted to recommend. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Bush.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to echo what Member Shu said. Really appreciate those comments. The demographic information is really important because I think it's and yeah, the need obviously to keep that confidential to a certain extent. But just tracking that, making sure there's no any kind of demographic disparities, whether that's based in a gender, race, income. And so I just want to echo that. I think that's really important. Great idea from Member Shu. My question for our Executive Director, Paula, do you, so that extra information, as Member Shu acknowledged that it is more data, so likely more time and resources. So this may have just got brought up, so just like, throwing this on you, but would you be able to tell us about how much an increase on staff time or resources that would be?
I think it would
be significant.
I'm sorry, I may have cut you off. So I think it might depend on the mechanism that we use to collect that information. I want to be sensitive to the comments that were made about folks feeling comfortable providing that information to us. And so I'm almost thinking that there may be a post complaint survey that we could be sending to folks that they could fill out after the fact. But there may be different mechanisms that we could choose. And I think the amount of staff time involved in collecting that data is going to depend on that mechanism. So we can try to discuss it with staff. And, we've got Mayani and William here that may be able to provide a little bit more input on that. But I absolutely support the need to collect information to make sure that we're serving all the communities that we need to be serving. I just want to make sure that we do it in a way that makes sure that people still feel comfortable coming to us and providing that information. So happy to talk with any of you in more detail about that and get your ideas. And then I don't know if Mayani and William want to add to that at all.
Thank you, Paula. Yes, I agree. I think we do track these complaints by region, but as it relates to information regarding complainants, sometimes it's difficult because not everyone feels comfortable disclosing that information, but we can certainly look into it because that would give us more data as to the nature of these complaints, and then we can address the source more specifically.
Great, thank you. And I'll wait to hear back more from my colleagues, but where I lean towards right now is maybe bringing this back with some more information about how we implement this. Thank you.
Vice Chair Sanchez and Member Shu.
Right, I just wanted to add that when we collect the data at the time that because it probably will need to go public in some format, that it be done like all added together and with no relationship to time, so that there can't be like guessing who it was that did this complaint, right? So yeah, sensitivity to the way it's collected obviously would be on a volunteer basis, assured that whether you give this information or not, we're going to take your complaint seriously and we're going to act on your complaint. So yeah, thank you.
Member Shu, thank you.
Actually, I would advocate that APCD not be the agency that collects the data, that we seek outside help. Because if we are worried about cultural barriers or some other barriers, we need a third party to collect the information. And of course, this is would have to be a professional group, or maybe a university with research information. I don't know, maybe they can get a grant, maybe Environmental Health Coalition can get a grant, and do this study in which they do it collaboratively with the information that the APCD has. So that would address these issues of cultural barriers, technical things, and I think it can be kept confidential as well. So in my past life, I dealt with some of that, and it was very successful because just simply identifying yourself as a staff person from APCD itself when you're doing the survey will change the data that you can receive. So that's my encouragement for that. And lastly, I think I'm interested in doing some ride-alongs with APCD as soon as it's maybe in the next month or so if we get safer. So I'm very much interested in possibly seeing the whole process, and if there is staff going out to do a check on a complaint, that that APCD can, at least for myself, do a ride along to see what their process is like.
Okay, and so then, thank you, Member Shu. So I guess, is there a motion to approve the draft plan? That would be the motion, right? And then do you want to add, and then maybe have, include in that motion, have staff bring back an update in, I don't know, 6 months or something like that, that includes a much more detailed accountability plan or something like that? Would that be?
So,
Like
Chair Vargas, just to clarify, you're asking for potentially a report back in 6 months on the issue regarding how to collect the demographic data?
Yeah, and I think that to Member Chu, I was trying to look for you, Member Chu. To Member Chu's point, is it best for us, what's the bet? Is it better for us to get outside consultants to do this, or I always think that we need to decide if it's better for us to do it internally or externally. He may be right, I don't know, but it's always good to make those assessments, and then you make those recommendations as
Sure.
our pollution control officer, right? So
certainly we can evaluate those options, and then we can also look at this in the context of the public participation plan, like all the comments regarding outreach and how are we making sure that folks in all communities know who to call. So we definitely see those as linked, and that public participation plan is going to be coming back to you a lot sooner than 6 months. So we'll be able to have that discussion in that context as well.
I'm trying to give you a cushion to get things done. All right, so would somebody like to make that motion?
So Member Shu will move that we accept this plan.
Okay, is there a second?
Medina.
Medina, is a second?
Receive and approve, right?
Okay, so Member Chu and Medina second. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera. Member Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you very much. Open it up on my computer. Hold on 1 second. All right, there we go. Okay, the next item that we have is our next item on the agenda is our San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Mobile Source Compliance Program. There's an APCD staff presentation that will be given for this item, but first, let me have Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public with testimony instructions?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation.
All right, so Ms. Forbes.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. As we've discussed many times over the last several months, the district's primary role is to improve air quality by regulating emissions from stationary sources. But today we wanted to provide the board and the public with more information about our programs that focus on mobile sources. And so as a result, items F3 and F4 on this agenda are informational items designed to give the governing board and the public a closer look at these programs, which on one hand enforce existing mobile source regulations, and on the other provide financial incentives to equipment owners to upgrade to cleaner equipment before a regulatory requirement kicks in. So we wanted to take a deep dive on these programs. And with that, for the first one, I will turn it over to Deputy Director Miney Luther.
Thank you, Paula, and good afternoon again. Once again, I'm Miney Luther, APCD Deputy Director. With me today, I have William Jacks again, Chief of our Compliance Division, as well as Tim Wolf, who is Supervising Air Quality Inspector. So as Paula mentioned, we are here to provide an update on the district's compliance mobile source program and to discuss how this program has been evolving and benefiting our communities. Madam Clerk, if I could have the presentation, please. Thank you so much. And then we can go to slide 2, please. So we'd like to start by making a distinction between mobile sources and other sources of air pollution. There are 3 main sources of air pollution. We have stationary sources, which are operations that do not move around. These sources include manufacturing operations, landfills, stationary engines, gas stations, and other operations that can create air pollution. Then we have mobile sources, which are trucks, vehicles, ships, airplanes, trains. And then we also have area sources, which are sources of pollution where the emissions are spread over a wide area, like consumer products, for example. Between 1955, when the district was formed, and 2017, the district primarily regulated stationary sources of air pollution. And these sources, stationary sources, are now largely in compliance with district's requirements. Next slide, please. San Diego County is not in compliance with the federal and state health-based standards for ozone. These standards are set by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency and the California Air Resources Board. And these standards establish maximum levels of air pollutants in the air to prevent adverse health effects. Breathing ground level ozone, which is also known as smog, can result in multiple adverse health effects, as you can see on this slide. Next slide, please. Ground level ozone is created by chemical reactions between nitrogen oxides, or NOx, and volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. The pie charts on this slide show that mobile sources create significant emissions of NOx and VOCs, which are the pollutants that form ozone. Because of the adverse health effects from ozone and the emission contributions from mobile sources, decreasing mobile source emissions will improve the health of San Diego County residents and visitors. Next slide, please. In addition to the challenges related to ozone formation, exhaust from trucks, buses, ships, and other equipment with diesel engines contain a mixture of gases and solid particles known as diesel particulate matter, or diesel PM. Diesel PM has a significant impact on California's population because it creates multiple adverse health effects. It is estimated that about 70% of the total known cancer risk related to air toxics in California is associated with diesel PM. Emissions of diesel PM also causes other adverse health effects, as shown on this slide. Over 90% of the emissions of diesel PM are generated by mobile sources. So due to the nature and level of emissions from mobile sources, in 2017, the district established a program to enforce mobile source regulations locally. Next slide, please. Since the district has limited authority over mobile sources, in 2014, the district signed a memorandum of understanding with the California Air Resources Board to gain authority to enforce regulations applicable to diesel heavy-duty trucks, buses, and off-road vehicles. Off-road vehicles include bulldozers, forklifts, and equipment that we typically find at construction sites. This slide shows how the program has evolved since we signed the MOU with CARB in 2014. Currently, the district has the most comprehensive mobile source program in the state. We would like to acknowledge the California Air Resources Board's collaboration during the development of this program. Their staff has always been very receptive to the idea of establishing this program locally, and they provided valuable resources to the district during the implementation of this program. The district continues to develop this program to achieve emission reductions that can benefit the region, especially in disadvantaged communities. In fact, last December, the district amended the MOU with CARB to gain authority to enforce commercial hovercraft regulations. Hovercrafts, which include fishing and excursion vessels, ferries, and other vessels, are in the top 3 emitting categories at seaports. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the estimated emission decreases and cancer risk reductions as a result of the existing commercial hovercraft rule. And this is the rule that we'll be enforcing. This is a very critical regulation for our region because many disadvantaged communities, such as the Portside communities, are nearby where these vessels operate. Enforcing this regulation is critical to achieve air quality and environmental justice goals. Next slide, please. This slide shows the mobile source inspections conducted annually. These numbers include inspections of trucks, buses, off-road vehicles, and idling inspections. On average, the district conducts about 4,400 inspections per year. There was a decrease in the number of inspections in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are unable to conduct inspections with the California Highway Patrol at weigh stations in Otay Mesa, San Onofre, and Rainbow. Next slide, please. The mobile source non-compliance rates have been decreasing since this program was established in 2017, which means that now sources subject to the rules we enforce are largely in compliance. On average, the non-compliance rates were about 25%, and now it's about 8%, which is similar to the non-compliance rate for stationary sources, as you can see on this slide. Since this program was adopted in 2017, we have documented emission reductions of approximately 10 tons per day from heavy-duty diesel vehicles. These vehicles have a significant impact on more vulnerable communities, such as the Portside community. Next slide, please. Because of the nature and emission contributions from mobile sources, as well as the negative impact on public health from those emissions, we hope to continue expanding the district's mobile source program. This is an informational item only, so we are available for your input and questions.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've received no request for public comment. However, if there are members of the public that are on the teleconference line now and that would like to address the board on this item, please raise your hand at this time by using the raise hand feature on Zoom or by pressing *9 now so that we may call on you.
Okay. There aren't any.
I see no hands raised. That concludes, there is no public testimony on this item.
Okay. Member Medina.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for a very good presentation, Ms. Luther. I just have a question. What does compliance look like for these mobile sources that are cited or are in non-compliance? And is there an average or an approximate amount of money that it takes for them to be in compliance?
Board Member Medina, are you referring to the monetary penalties that they are subject to?
Well, yeah, not so much the penalties, but if somebody is out of compliance and then they get into compliance, what do they have to do that? And approximately how much does it cost them to do that? apart from any kind of violation or fine?
Sure, I'll start it and then I'll turn to staff for more details. But it really depends. We document the different types of violations. So for example, idling violations. When vehicles don't meet all the applicable requirements. For trucks, sometimes they have to equip their engines with filters. To minimize emissions. Sometimes, the violations are related to opacity. And so sometimes the violations are related to not being able to not reporting the equipment and under the California Resources Board database. So, and the monetary penalty it really depends on the nature of violations. So emission-related violations are typically subject to higher penalties. So, Tim, I don't know if you want to add anything to this.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just add in general. There is a range of violation types. Going from record keeping to emissions violations, and depending on the violation, if it could require an engine repair, or it could require that the engine be replaced with a compliant engine. So, if that's the case, it's a significant, cost to whoever the driver owner is.
Thank you.
Sure.
Seeing no other comments, is there a motion to accept?
Chair Vargas, I did want to give a chance for, it looks like we do have a representative from CARB. Miney, I wasn't sure if you wanted him to go ahead and speak at this time.
Sure, I think it would be appropriate to speak at this time if you're ready.
Sure, Miney, I'll make this quick. I'll just say, we've established MOU with agreements with many other air districts to enforce our mobile source rules. And the agreement that we have in place with San Diego is more extensive than we have with any other district. They're more active than any other air district. And their work in this area really surpasses what anyone else does. And we see it as a model for other air districts. So I just wanted to be clear about the extent of the work that your staff is doing, because it's something that we very much appreciate. The unique partnership that we have really dovetails nicely with our program and helps ensure that the emission reductions that were envisioned when we adopted the rules are actually achieved in practice. So just appreciation to you, the board, and to the staff for continuing to implement this important program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your comments.
I have a quick question, if I could ask.
Yes, sir.
And for both CARB and APCD, we have, there was a very good slide that Jaime showed in terms of reduction in violations. Do we have any data? And of course, I understand I'm asking for more and more work to be done, but I'm interested in outcome measures. That is, ultimately, we're trying to reduce the number of people that are sick, fewer cancer cases. Is there any way that we could track the reductions in violations with the number of cases of emergency cases of asthma or cancer cases in our region?
Well, maybe I can start. So we have been measuring the success of this program by, as you said, board members should, by measuring the non-compliance rate and emission reductions. At this point, we don't have a strong connection between cancer risk and emissions. I know there's some studies being developed to make this connection, but at this point, I'm not aware of anything that directly connect cancer risk with emissions.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd, sorry.
Oh, no, Paula, go ahead.
I was just going to echo a little bit of what Mayani said, and I think I'll defer to Todd in terms of what the state's working on in that respect. I think there's data out there in terms of what health metrics we could be looking at, but the difficulty is going to be parsing out, how that data relates to this program specifically. So we may be able to get better estimates in terms of what those emissions reductions look like as a result of, good implementation of these programs and enforcement of those regulations. But it's going to be difficult to tie that to health metrics that are based in a lot of different air quality issues, right, that are occurring in the region.
So if I can just make a quick point, it's nothing that we may be able to do here and now, but we can advocate in the future, which is perhaps asking state legislators to fund specialized outside studies, typically by universities, to see the effectiveness of these measures that that are taking place. And the reason for that is quite often we get criticized for implementing measures that may in some way harm industry in one way or another, or cost someone some money to replace an engine. But I think it'd be very helpful if we have some information to say what are the benefits of these actions, that we actually reduced the number of cancer deaths, that we actually reduced the number of hospital visits, and place a figure on that, so that if we can do that, we can show the outcome of this. And I think that's really important for messaging, public messaging of what APCD does as well as CARB.
You. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you're looking for a motion to receive the update regarding the district's mobile source compliance program. My motion that we do.
Is there a second?
Sure, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Oh, wait a second. I think there's another. Oh, there we go. Okay. Is there another? I think you still have your hand up, Madam Vice Chair. You're good? You still have your hand up, Madam Vice Chair? Do you still have another question? Oh, no, she's frozen.
She's frozen.
All right, and then Member Elo Rivera has joined us. Welcome, sir. All right, Madam Clerk, you can call the roll, please.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera.
Yes.
Member Lawson Reamer. Member Martinez.
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez. Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda for discussion is the update on San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Mobile Source Emission Reduction Incentive Program. And so there is a presentation. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions before I turn it over to our staff for presentation?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Your testimony will be heard at the conclusion of the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Horvath.
Thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, in my comments, this is the second of our 2 items today, focusing on what we're doing to reduce mobile source emissions in San Diego region. And Kathy Keehan is in charge of our incentives program, and she's going to give you the deep dive on all the different financial incentives that we give to folks before regulations kick in order to promote these reductions. So I'll turn over to Kathy. Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Can we go ahead and start the PowerPoint, please? Terrific. Okay. Whoops, except now I can't see anything. There we go. Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Kean, and I manage the district's planning and incentives team. I'm here today to give you an overview of our incentive programs. Next slide, please. One of the ways the district fulfills its mission of clean air for all is through our financial incentive programs. These programs provide funds to encourage the early cleanup of mobile sources of pollution, which we cannot directly regulate, but are the largest source of ozone-forming pollution and diesel particulate in the region. Incentives can also focus benefits on specific sectors or communities. Our AB 617 Community Air Protection Program, for example, specifically focuses on the region's disadvantaged communities. Most funding for district incentives comes from outside sources, the California Air Resources Board and the federal EPA being the two most important. Next slide, please. Current state and federally funded programs help the region by incentivizing new equipment before regulation requires it. Incentives also help demonstrate cleaner technologies that go beyond the current standards. And incentive programs can achieve real, lasting, targeted emission reductions by destroying older polluting equipment. Next slide, please. There are certain things we cannot do with the incentive programs due to state and federal restrictions on these funds. Those restrictions mean we usually cannot incentivize a project after the regulations already require it. We cannot provide funding for untested or uncertified equipment. We cannot provide more funding than the program's cost effectiveness limits. Cost effectiveness, or bang for the buck, ensures that we use the incentive funding to get the most emission reductions possible with each dollar that we spend. We cannot usually pay the entire project costs. It's important that participants have some stake in the outcome of the projects. There are some exceptions to this requirement, which we'll discuss in later slides. Next slide, please. So let's talk about what we can do. The district currently has 8 programs that address 3 focus areas. Programs that target heavy-duty diesel equipment and supporting infrastructure, programs that target passenger vehicles, and an air monitor and purifier program for residents of the Portside environmental justice community. Next slide, please. Let's start with our heavy-duty equipment programs. These are our traditional incentive programs. They target nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, and diesel particulate matter pollution from mobile sources like trucks, construction equipment, trains, tractors, and marine vessels. The Carl Moyer program is the oldest of these programs. We're on year 23 of that program, and it's the model for many of the others. Programs listed on this slide each have various limits and goals. For example, the Farmer program specifically focuses on agricultural equipment. All of these programs use cost effectiveness, that bang for the buck, as a way to control cost and prioritize projects. Several of these programs have recently allowed funding for infrastructure like natural gas fueling pumps or electric equipment chargers to encourage switching to cleaner technologies. Next slide, please. Some notable examples of projects in these heavy-duty incentive programs include new North County Transit District locomotives, shore power at the cruise ship terminals, and a first-in-the-state electric tugboat project. These programs have proven to be very popular. This year's solicitation received 242 applications totaling $57 million in requests for the approximately $30 million we have available in funding. Next slide, please. This slide outlines the typical process for these projects. In general, it takes between 1 to 4 years for projects to be completed. We start with outreach, of course, to let people know about the programs. District staff work throughout the year to promote incentive opportunities using many avenues: meetings, our website, social media, email, and some targeted advertising. Once the word is out, the district receives applications, and then staff reviews the submitted information, conducts inspections, creates ranked lists for funding, processes invoices, and tracks status reporting. All of this must happen within the liquidation deadlines for the state incentive programs, typically 4 years, but sometimes shorter. Next slide, please. While the bulk of our funding and programs are for heavy-duty equipment, the district also runs a few programs that help address pollution from smaller cars and trucks. One of these is the SCRAP program, which encourages people to turn in their 1997 and older polluting cars and receive a $1,000 rebate. In addition to providing emission reductions in the region, this program also helps support the county climate action plan. Next slide, please. Another program targeting passenger cars, the Cal-E VIP program, is a joint effort between the district, the California Energy Commission, and SANDAG to incentivize electric vehicle chargers. We know that one barrier for people purchasing electric cars is a lack of public places to charge them. San Diego was the first region in the state to have an air district and a planning organization partner in this program, leveraging over $15 million in state funding for chargers in San Diego. We expect this initial program to lead to other partnership opportunities between SANDAG and the district as our two agencies work together, particularly through actions outlined in the recently adopted SANDAG Regional Plan. Next slide, please. A new program for passenger cars we expect to open in 2022 is Clean Cars for All. This program provides an opportunity for low-income residents in disadvantaged communities to trade in their old car and receive an incentive to purchase a new or used hybrid or electric car, or to receive a transit pass or credit toward an electric bike. The Air Resources Board approved $5 million in funding for this program last November. And once the agreement with the state has been signed, work can begin to hire a contractor to help the district administer this program, to do outreach, and to provide support for applicants throughout the process. This program will target those most in need of cleaner cars in a direct and tangible way. Next slide, please. Although most of our incentive programs focus on reducing emissions at their source, we're also starting a program to help protect people from those emissions, particularly in their homes. The Portside Air Quality Improvement and Relief Program covers 100% of the cost of air monitors and purifiers for selected residents in the Portside Environmental Justice Community. This program is jointly funded by the county and the Port District and is expected to provide over 500 purifiers and monitors to local families. There was a press conference today. Whoops, looks like we're seeing some stuff on there. There we go. There's a press conference today to announce the program, which will open for applications on March 1st. Thank you, Supervisor Vargas, for being there. Next slide, please. While most of our programs focus on one aspect of emissions, I'd like to spend a few minutes on the Community Air Protection Program, or AB 617, which cuts across several different program types. As you've heard in other presentations, the AB 617 program focuses our energy and resources to provide air quality improvements specifically in the region's most impacted communities. Incentives are an important piece of the overall AB 617 strategy. In the past, projects for these communities did not always fit into the requirements and restrictions of our traditional incentive programs. AB 617 brought needed flexibility to programs for these communities. Next slide, please. Although much of our focus is on the Portside environmental justice community, the district has several census tracts that qualify for funding for projects under the Community Air Protection Program, and those are shown in red and blue on this slide. At least 80% of Community Air Protection Program funds are required to be spent on projects that benefit these specific communities. Next slide, please. The Community Air Protection Program has two different elements. The first is the traditional heavy-duty Moyer program with some additional flexibilities to help these projects work in these disadvantaged communities. The second element are the community identified projects, which grew out of the community process to develop the Community Emission Reduction Plan, or CERP, for Portside. This year, we're expecting $18 million in funding for these two types of programs. I'll discuss the two options in the next few slides. Next slide, please. For the traditional AB 617 programs, we've provided incentive funding for the last 3 years to jumpstart emission reductions in disadvantaged communities. These projects have included school buses, marine vessels, and off-road equipment. We've just closed our most recent call for these projects and received approximately $19 million in new requests, including things like electric infrastructure for a crane at the port, a second electric tugboat, and electric school buses. Staff is currently evaluating these projects for eligibility and to determine potential funding amounts. We'll be bringing a list of potential projects to the steering committee that provide the most emission reductions to the steering committee for their consideration in a couple of months. Next slide, please. The community identified projects is a new category of program for the district. It's a much more intense collaborative effort with the community to identify priorities for funding. In exercises with the steering committee, they identified 2 priorities, the electric truck pilot project and the zero emission port equipment project. And they approved a total of $7 million be set aside specifically for those projects in Portside. These 2 programs allow us to eliminate barriers that prevented funding in the past, such as traditional cost effectiveness limits and old equipment scrapping requirements. District staff is currently creating program guidelines for these 2 efforts to be reviewed and approved by the California Air Resources Board before implementation can begin. In creating these, we've worked closely with the Port District to ensure this funding can help support the Maritime Clean Air Strategy actions and the SERP. We'll anticipate these projects moving forward in 2022. Next slide, please. Today's presentations outline the basics of incentive programs the district administers. We are, of course, not the only agency that provides incentives for clean air. This year's state budget contains millions of dollars in incentives for zero emission vehicles and equipment in California. We expect some of that funding to come to the Air District, but many of the programs are administered through state programs such as HVIP, CORE, and Clean Vehicle Rebate Program. The district tracks various incentive programs and evaluates them to see if there are opportunities for the district to attract funding. Since May of 2021, we've evaluated 15 opportunities. The district determined it was eligible to apply for 4, and we had the resources to pursue 2. One of those programs was successfully funded. We'll continue to work with local businesses and residents to help them access any programs that may be available. By working together, we can leverage millions in state funding to help our local transition, and we want to make sure everyone in the region has access to all the available programs. The state regulatory environment also plays a role in incentive programs. As the state tightens regulatory controls on mobile sources, the definition of early and excess emission reductions will change, and this will impact our traditional incentive programs. We need to work with our partner air districts and CARB to ensure these programs will continue to serve our local communities. Next slide, please. I want to take just a moment to give you some historic perspective on our incentive programs. In recent years, incentive opportunities have grown from 5 million in 2017 to 25 million in 2021, and we're anticipating $41 million in 2022. In 2022, we'll have 23 different active funding agreements with the state or federal government. In turn, we have approximately 250 contracts with over 570 pieces of equipment for local businesses involved in our incentive programs. During the last 5 years, we've added 1 additional staff person to work on incentives, and we're currently working at our maximum capacity to administer these programs. Next month, we intend to bring you a board action to request a mid-year budget adjustment to make additional funds available as quickly as possible to support these incentive programs. Next slide, please. So to recap and summarize, the district uses incentives to achieve early excess emission reductions in places where they're most needed. The programs incentivize the transition to new technologies like zero emission equipment. The programs must work within the timelines and guidelines provided by our state and federal funding partners. We expect opportunities for incentives to grow, given the state's emphasis on transitioning to zero emission equipment. And we know that partnerships with other agencies will be key to the success of these programs. We'll be back to you in March to discuss some program and budget adjustments to address additional funds. Next slide, please. So this has been a very brief overview of the incentive programs that the district administers, and we've gone over them really quickly. Happy to discuss them in more detail either today or in the future, but at this time, I'm happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I was so thrilled to be able to be there today. And we'll talk a little bit about that before in a minute. But first, let me just go ahead and ask our Madam Clerk if there's any members of the public that wish to provide a public testimony on this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 1 member of the public that has raised their hand to speak. The last 4 digits of their phone number are 2776. I would ask that you unmute yourself at this time and please begin by stating your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. (2776).
Hello, and I'm so sorry for the delay. My name is Suzanne Hume. I'm the Educational Director and founder of CleanEarthForKids.org. And I did have my hand raised and lowered after each of the agenda items previously, just to say, and I will be following up, our organization will be following up, and our youth will send videos and things like that. So I have many statements today. I'm going to start by saying that it's really important that your staff communicates to the public, to the members there serving on the board, and to the public the harms of air pollution. There are absolutely studies, so many studies. We are clear about the harms of air pollution. The World Health Organization calls for 5 or less PM 2.5 annually. Why is it incumbent upon nonprofits, I work for free and have no paid staff, and youth and volunteers to be providing this information? Why do we have to go to CARB and ask, hey, can you do these studies? They were the ones about wood smoke. They were the ones who shut it down and said we need action. And that's just on wood smoke. There are so many other things that need to happen here. In terms of secondhand smoke, we need signs, we need other things. Thank you for taking action on leaf blowers, and we're excited about that. We work with sequel.org, San Diego sequel.org, and many others. So we do have the information. I was just devastated by that. As I said before, premature deaths of 1 in 10 people in the US and 1 in 5 globally are because of air pollution. And as a person who has personally been harmed by the city of Oceanside and the county of San Diego, and for you not to step up and to help us monitor our air, not just monitor, but shut down these sources, is really, really beyond. And of course, we will always be polite and work together as well as possible. But you have to know, since that comment was made, I am absolutely shaking. There's so much work that absolutely needs to be done. We already know about asthma attacks, heart attacks, strokes, brain inflammation, and damage. Children get air pollution results in inflammation of the brain and dementias in children. So I am asking for today, and hopefully it will be on the agenda of the next meeting, that while there were a few slides today talking about the harms of air pollution, that you do an extensive presentation on the harms of air pollution so everyone is crystal clear. So, and as well as getting out into the community, we need billboards, we need flyers, we need signs. You have millions of dollars. We don't have millions of dollars, and we're working to save people's lives. About no idling, excited about the no idling signs, we need an ordinance. We need laws, we need rules. We need you to help us. You need to save lives. And I didn't know if I would live a year after I was poisoned by pesticides in Oceanside, and I started CleanEarthForKids.org, and I still don't know. So I just wanted to say that as you think about and make these decisions, you need to understand that real people are being harmed by your inaction. And again, I apologize for being upset. This is very difficult. So please, and to hear CARB compliment, yes, there's people there that have done amazing work, and thank you so much, but so much more has to be done. I'm literally still in shock about that comment. And also,
ma'am, I would ask that you please conclude your comments. Your 3 minutes has ended.
Thank you. And to Councilmember Jack Hsu, who is amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. I agree that universities and others can get involved. However, we have the data. We have data now, and we don't need to explain it to corporate polluters and others that don't have the information or care about children, teachers like me or others. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item, and I would also like to remind members of the public that public testimony should be aligned with the item itself. However, if you do have non-agenda public comment, you may make those comments during public communication at the beginning of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any board member comments regarding this particular item? I do want to say thank you for to Kathy and the rest of the team. I was glad that I was able to join this afternoon during the press conference, and we're going to have 525 monitors that we're going to be able to hand out to the people are going to be able to apply for starting on March 1st, and that EHC is going to go through that process. Hopefully we'll be able to get additional resources so that everybody has access to these, and they were great. And then I think my favorite part of it was that not only will they have access to the equipment, but there's also going to be resources, because we know it's really expensive, which I think was a really great part of that. So thank you very much. Any other member comments on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion, please, to accept?
So moved by Sanchez.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second by Medina.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera,
Elo Rivera, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer, Member Martinez,
Martinez, yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, aye.
Member Shu,
Q I.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
All right, well, fantastic. I am going to now, the next item is the report from our air pollution control officer. She's been officially on the job a whole month. Before I turn it over to Paula, I'm gonna turn the meeting over to our Vice Chair, Esther Sanchez. I am going to excuse myself, as today is my first official meeting as your CARB representative. And so I got a really awesome motion to make today on behalf of all of us. Hopefully it passes, right? So I'll keep you all posted, and I'll be fighting the good fight. There shouldn't be any conflicts in the future, but I'm really excited about it, and I'll keep you posted. Thanks again, everybody, for the great work, and I will see you at our next meeting, which is going to be March 10th, and I will turn it over to you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you,
rest of
Madam
the
Chair.
day, and happy Valentine's Day if I don't see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Bye.
So we're at the Air Pollution Control Officer's report. Ms. Forbes.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez. Well, so I was about to congratulate Chair Vargas on her appointment to CARB, but she has had to leave us for her first meeting. She's jumping right in. And there is a meeting of CARB at 4 p.m. today, and they're going to be proposing to designate the San Diego International Border Community as an AB 617 community. So we've been doing a lot of work in the Portside communities. We're now expanding that work to the International Border Community. We're super excited about that, and staff's been working on that already to be up and ready when that designation happens. So you'll see a couple of other folks probably click off and head over to that meeting as well. And I also want to let you know some other exciting news. Our public information officer that we've talked about for months and months and months is starting tomorrow. So we're super excited about that. Her name is Melina Meza, and she has a great background in community outreach and public communications. So we're really excited to welcome her to our team. And we were only sorry that she was starting the day after our press event today, but we are excited to have her coming on board. And then also wanted to let you know that staff is working on the next update to our fee rules for fiscal year 22-23. We met with the members of the Cost Recovery Task Force yesterday for their input. And we're going to be conducting stakeholder outreach over the next few weeks with the intent of holding the first public hearing on a fee update at your board meeting in March. So stay tuned for that, but we're getting ready for our fee update and budget for fiscal year 22-23. And then finally, I just had a couple of other items of note regarding our collaboration with other agencies in pursuit of our mission. First, we've also talked about collaborating more with SANDAG. And so APCD and SANDAG are going to be holding a joint online workshop to discuss how the two agencies work together to address the region's clean air and greenhouse gas goals with equity, health, and climate in mind. And so that workshop's going to be Tuesday, March 8th from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And it will be a chance for the public to learn more about how our agencies coordinate on programs and to get feedback from them as to how we can do more. So if you'd like any more information on that, please let us know. And then APCD is also going to be collaborating with the county's newly formed Office of Environmental and Climate Justice. And the county's office is going to serve as a community advocate that collaborates with other federal, state, and regional regulatory agencies to implement environmental protections and remedy environmental disparities and injustices. And APCD staff will collaborate with the county's office as it continues to develop its framework. And while we formalize a framework for our own Office of Environmental Justice. So we'll be bringing our Office of Environmental Justice framework to your board for input and approval later this spring. So stay tuned for that as well. And then finally, I have sent out emails to board members. I'm in the process of trying to schedule one-on-one sit-downs with board members. If you have availability and time, I'd love to sit down with you in person and hear more about your priorities. So I'll be kind of reaching out again periodically related to that. And then that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Forbes. Are there any questions from my colleagues on her report? I see no hands going up. We're now on board member updates. Are there any updates from the board, from board members? Well, this was easy. Okay. We're at adjournment then. Thank you. That concludes our business for today. The next meeting of the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board will be on March 10th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
That too. Bye.